Good morning, good evening, good late night, good middle of the night. How's everyone doing? I gotta tell you, I gotta look into something here. So, we made it. We made it. We're back. We've done it again. Listen, I want to thank anyone who's out there watching. We're in this is a weird week where we in the US have not yet changed our times. The clock, daylight savings time, and you roll. I can never remember. I think it's spring forward, fall back. So I guess we're gonna turn them back. I don't fully understand how this all works. But anyway, my point is we haven't done that in the States yet. And if you're watching in Europe and probably elsewhere, you have done that, which means it's this like moment where Earth breaks because suddenly our time difference shifts by an hour and someone has to bend, right? So either I move the time in the US for the live stream or the people that have already changed the clocks need to kind of adjust. And so I sent out a notice. I think Stefan sent that out, letting people know that if you're in Europe, you're watching right now, you know this. If you're in Europe and you're watching right now, you know that it's an hour earlier than it normally is for this live stream. But if you are in the US, you're wondering what I'm talking about because everything's just carried on the same. Next week, it all shifts back. We change our clocks. I think the world comes back into sync. It's this weird, I don't know why we haven't been able to sync that. We've almost got it synced, but for some reason, the European US relations can't just get that little bridge of like, oh, hey, when do you do it? Well, we'll do it at the same time because I'm sure there's like a ton of missed meetings and all sorts of things that are getting screwed up by this during this week. And then there's people like Arizona. If you're watching in Arizona, I don't think you guys change at all. I think you guys have just said like, nah, we're not going to do that. And so that just happens in the US that Arizona sort of is shifting its time zone placement in the world at various times. Who knows? The point is, you made it. That's the good news. I made it. I guess that's the good news as well. We're here. This is a solo show this week, so we don't have a guest. This is just me. We do this from time to time where I just hang out with you guys and we kind of talk about certain things. You know, we've done some harmony stuff. We've done some sort of live on-air collaboration stuff. And so, you know, I like to sort of pepper these in now and again so that it's not only just a guest after guest, but that maybe we get a little time to hang out. And actually, speaking of, Stefan and I met today and, did the planning that we do where we're kind of making sure that all our ducks are in the row for the upcoming live streams. And well, we've planned for, I can't remember the date now. I wish I could. I want to say late November, I think, that we're planning on doing one of these things we've done twice now in the past where it's like an open call. I'm going to open up a Zoom call and you guys can tune in and chat with me and I'll bring you guys up on screen. We'll take a look at maybe some of the music that you guys are working on, talk about what you're doing in Reason and musically and whatever, and just kind of hang out. So it's like sort of that community thing that we had gotten some requests from people in the chat to do another one of those, and they're fun to do, and we do them kind of every couple months, I guess now. We've been doing this live stream, I think we're coming up on 7 months, I think, which maybe even 8 months, 7 or 8 months. I think 7 months. And that still surprises me, but now we can actually start talking about things that we do in intervals like that, where it's like, oh yeah, we do that about every 2 months. So hopefully you guys can tune in for that. It's always a fun one. So definitely please tune in. Speaking of, I should throw this out there at the top here. Speaking of sort of showcasing you guys, I had put out a thought, basically. I mean, it really wasn't more than that. It's what someone I used to work with called a conversation of possibility. I put out a thought that after the Venus Theory live stream, I said, if you guys do anything, if you make any music using this concept he showed of sort of taking a field recording and then manipulating it either via creating sort of custom drum samples or getting into sort of the grain cloud stuff that he was doing, send it to us and we'll check it out on the stream. And I created a link, a Dropbox link for you guys to send us that stuff. We haven't really, I don't think, unless Stefan sent it out today, I don't think we've actually sent it out to you guys to send in your stuff yet. So there is a link. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. It's gone. It's in the chat. Okay, so I've dropped a link into the chat. That is a Dropbox file submission link. So if you have made in this last week anything using the techniques that you saw on the Venus Theory live stream and wanted to show us what you did or share some of your music, by all means, upload that stuff and I will go take a peek in that folder. And if there's anything there, I'll play it. Maybe it's worth mentioning, make it like a rendered file, like an MP3 or WAV file or AIFF or something that's, I can just play the audio and I don't have to open it up and go, oh wait, I don't have the rack extensions installed that you have, or the VSTs, or there's embedded samples or non-embedded samples, I should say. So rendered audio file, and we'll check it out. I was talking with some guys in the chat before the stream got going, and I said, or they asked, or I think they said it's not, I'll send something in, but it's not completely finished. And that's totally fine. If you've got something that's a work in progress, I'll send it in anyway. It's just fun for us all to kind of see what you guys are working on, and actually I think there's sometimes more value in all of us collectively seeing the works in progress than there is in seeing the finished thing, if you know what I mean. I mean, I think we're all sort of on this lifelong learning curve, and live streams like this is a place where we can we don't have to be so precious about our work. I think, believe me, when you see today, you're going to be like, Ryan is not precious about his work. But I think there's a value in us kind of, as a community, kind of showing our works in progress to each other and taking inspiration from seeing how they're developing rather than just looking at the finished thing. It's, if we were magicians, and hanging out in a little magician community, right? It's like, if we just only showed each other like the finished illusion, like, yeah, it's fun the way it is for anyone to see an illusion performed. You go, oh, how'd they do that? But as a community of magicians, I don't know why I've gone with this analogy, but as a community of magicians, we would learn a lot more from each other if we, did sort of discuss kind of the mechanics of what we are working on, or maybe show things and get tips from others and feedback from others. So I'm always a proponent of the show it, warts and all. And I mean, if you've seen my tutorials and stuff over the years, I live by that. Because truth be told, if you only sort of try to present your best thing, it can be actually very crippling. That's sort of where writer's block kind of comes in. And if anybody is struggling from writer's block, that is one of the key ways that you can get into that sort of whirlpool, is that you put this expectation on yourself that if you show something to people, it better be ready to go, and there's a time and place for that. I'm not saying you should, make your Spotify songs works in progress, or, if you're submitting things to a label for consideration, you should be like, oh, hey, here's my 8-bar kind of rough edges loop. Should I develop this? You want to give me a deal like that? That's not what I'm saying. But for our purposes, I think it's pretty good. Let me just check in with the comments. Chris Ray, have I already drunk from the yellow mug? Did you spot the yellow mug already? I don't know if I've already brought it in, but anyway, let's see what else is going on. Adam says it's time to bust out the field recorder. Oh, or wait, I'm going to put that one up on screen. Or the fielding recorder. Adam, that is dad level joke. Is this your way of telling us that you're expecting a child soon, because you've kicked into dad joke mode for sure? But anyway, let's see. What else is going on here? Everyone's just having a good old conversation. Feedback loops are dope in Reason. I wonder, Gilp, what do you mean? Do you mean actually setting up purposeful feedback loops in Reason? I imagine, I can think of, I don't know what you mean by that, but I can think of a concept for that that sounds like it could definitely be cool. But anyway, okay, so Stefan here. Stefan's got the link going on as well. That's in the chat, and just for the sake of the chat, if it's flying by too fast, I'll paste it again. Should we take a look? I mean, it's a little early here, but let me just take a look in that folder and see if there actually is anything worth taking a look at, and we can kind of poke around in that multiple times. Oh, there is stuff in there. Okay, so maybe we should look. Should we look at some stuff or listen to some stuff? I should say it's not really a look. It's more of a listen. Yeah, let's do it. Hang on a second. I'm going to open them up here. You're going to just have to stare at my face while I listen to these. But so Gabriel Lord has sent in an idea that he calls theory sketch, which I kind of love for two reasons. One, it's a little bit of a shout out there to Venus Theory for, sort of the origins of this idea. And sketch, this was a thing that we were talking about in the chat before the stream, that some people refer to their ideas, maybe not as demos, but as sketches. And that's sort of, it's a little bit of a nomenclature trick to kind of relieve that pressure, literally when you're drawing something, if you called it a doodle or a sketch, it's like, oh, this doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, cool. Then I can sort of get behind this for the potential that it might be rather than what it is right now. There's a quote. It's in the movie Jerry Maguire. Is that my 90s reference for the day? I think I might have pulled it in. What are we at? 11 minutes. I got it in 11 minutes into the stream. But there's a quote in Jerry Maguire where the female character says, of Tom Cruise's character, she says, "I love him for the man he wants to be and the man he almost is." And I always thought that's like it's a dig in the movie, but I always sort of, that resonated with me creatively, because it's like, that's our songs, it's like you love them for the idea that they almost are, or for the idea that they want to be and the idea that they almost are. And the truth is that most of our ideas never actually manifest into the thing that we were truly hoping they would be. They kind of always fall short of our expectations. I think that's what keeps pushing us forward, actually, is that the more you work at getting better, the higher your expectation of what you can do is. And so there's just this always sort of moving conveyor belt of ambition and ability. And that's totally okay. And it's always okay to be just that little bit behind that curve. So, let's see. Stefan's asking, what year? Yeah, maybe 97. I don't know. But yeah, that is an important thing to think about. I remember I saw or listened to a story on NPR about, they were talking about the 10,000 hour rule. You guys have probably heard of this, that there's this idea out there that in order to master an instrument or master anything, you need to put in 10,000 hours of work. And once you've put in 10,000 hours, you will be a master. And they talked to members of, I think it was the New York, the Met Philharmonic, or the Symphony Orchestra, New York Philharmonic. They talked to these master players, and what they all said was like, that's not actually true. I mean, maybe it's true in the sense that I'm first chair violin in the orchestra, and I probably put in over 10,000 hours of practice. So maybe that's true in that sense. But what they came to understand was that it's not just putting in the work. It's this other concept about the way that these people practice, which is called, I think they called it deliberative practice. And what they mean by it is that when you're practicing on a more sort of traditional way, we don't do this with production, but we could. But when you're practicing an instrument, if you're playing guitar or trombone or whatever your thing is, your goal when you're practicing is not to play the things you know how to do, because now you're just giving yourself a concert. That's not really playing. Your goal is actually to try and play things that you can't do yet. You actually are spending your practice time playing above your ability. And what they talked about with that was that that's kind of frustrating, because that means that all of the time you spend practicing, which is most of your life as a traditional musician practicing an instrument and sort of woodshedding something, as they say, most of your time is then frustrated by your inability. You're kind of pushing against this barrier of your own capability, and you know it. You've deliberately set the bar above what you can do, and so you're aware the entire time you're practicing that you kind of suck at this. And there's a certain like self-love mentality that you need to get into to actually be able to do that and not feel down, to actually realize that by doing that, you actually are moving forward, but you're just always kind of chasing after your ambition a little bit. And that is true, even though we may not, practice arpeggios on a trombone. I mean, speak for yourself. That's all I do when I'm not on the live stream. But maybe we're not doing that. But in our production, we are still kind of always doing that thing of chasing a little bit, keeping our ambition a little above where we're at, and practicing the self-love of going. But it's cool. I know that I can't do yet what I want to do, but I'll never do exactly what I want to do because I'll always keep moving that up. That's kind of the right way to think about it, I think. Anyway, let's take a look at Gabriel Lord's tune here. This is called Theory Sketch, and this was done using presumably some field recordings. And Gabriel, let us know in the comments. I'll play this, and by the time it's done, we will have caught up to where you're seeing my comment right now to you. Let us know in the comments kind of what recordings you used to make. Maybe it'll be obvious. Maybe we'll just hear a running faucet and a crying baby and we'll get it. But if not, let us know what is going on in this. Here we go. That's great. That is fantastic. Gabriel, thank you so much. Yeah, let us know. Now I've opened a can of trombone joke threads going on in the comments. You guys will be on that for weeks now. We're going to be talking about banjos, flannels, yellow mugs, and trombone jokes now for the rest of the year. But yeah. And so I flagged a comment. I'm going to come back to you in a second, Gabriel. I flagged a comment here about this. Mowgli said that I always hear that 10 years equals 10,000 hours, which is like 2 hours and 40 minutes a day. That's sort of what these symphonic players were talking about in trying to dispel that notion, because that can be really daunting. If you're trying to learn something and somebody says that you're going to be at this for 10 years, it's like, oh, shoot, you know? So what they were saying, that's not really true. If you actually do this more deliberative thing of trying to keep yourself above where your goals, above where you're at, you can actually shorten that, you know, I think some of these people, you know, you hear stories about people that pick up the violin and then 4 years later they're, you know, in college on a scholarship for it or something, you know, so it doesn't have to be 10 years and 10,000 hours literally. And you don't have to say, oh my God, I only practiced for an hour and 38 minutes today. I'm an hour and 2 minutes short of I'm off my pace. You don't have to do that. So yeah. So Gabriel says, the drums are from recordings on his desk, things on his desk. That's cool. They sound, I mean, I don't know if necessarily the goal is to make it so that they are unrecognizable as unique to you. I mean, but I guess it is a compliment that I would have never flagged those as like, oh, that clearly just sounds like Gabriel's banging on a tin can and that's his snare drum, you know. Save that for the Metallica records. Bazinga! No, but it sounds great. I think the drums sounded great. We'll take a little listen again, knowing that those are coming from things on your desk. We'll take a little quick listen. I mean, that's a tight snare. And the kick drum's nice too. Yeah. Oh, and here, look at this. Now that you mention, I can hear that alligator. I'll back up. There it is. You know, I gotta say, alligator is one of those that I don't use enough personally. That's a good little reminder that I should, maybe today, I'll throw an alligator on because I don't use it enough. Okay, let's take a peek into the folder again. Let's see here. Here. Mentally detached. Okay, hang on a second. We're gonna open this up. QuickTime. Tune called Obscurity. Now this one's 3 minutes long. I won't play this entire thing, but if you could let us know if you're in the comments, let me just Yeah, it's Mentally Detached Obscurity. I assume that the artist name is Mentally Detached. And if you're in the comments, oh, there you are. The first Bazinga on a stream. that is true. So we're setting records here. Anyway, so yeah, let's take a listen to a little bit of your thing, but let us know what you're doing here with the field recordings, found sounds, and manipulation. Really nice. That's right. You know, when it started, I kind of love things when they start and the sort of traditional, I'm trying to think of a way to say this that doesn't sound like I'm about to insult you, because I'm not. I'm about to compliment you. But the traditional expectation of kind of 12-tone melodic music isn't being followed. The scales as we know them, you know, things are moving outside of the scale and they're getting a bit sort of atonal, and your ear is kind of left going, oh wait, is this a just total sound experiment? And then it sort of pulls in to this thing that you can latch onto. I think anyone who's seen some of my other tutorials, I made a tutorial about sort of what makes a catchy hook. And that's one of my solid principles of kind of catchy, interesting music, is that you balance surprises with meeting people's expectations, or you balance things they can't quite get a hold of with things they can get a hold of. And when you give people that sort of the sweet and the sour, or the, you know, the spicy and the bland, I don't know. you give people those two sides of the coin. I think that sort of is the most rewarding thing as a listener, to be both surprised. You know, if you only did sort of predictable, just a beat and a bass line, and it was predictable, I mean, it's not bad, but it's not exactly, it doesn't draw the listener in. Or if you only did the experimental stuff that sort of moves outside of normal scales and sounds, you know, like it's just kind of exploring atonally, that can also, you know, be a little hard to latch onto. So excellent job, Mentally Detached. Yeah, and Cody Norris approves. This is fire. So, but let's see. Let me scroll up and see if I missed. Here we go. Okay. So he says it's not going to be recognizable, but there were some synths I pulled from recordings of my kids' voices. Okay, and processed heavily with some sine waves. So cool. That's great. I'm going to take a little quick listen again just to hear some of that. I don't know which ones they are. I mean, you're right that they're not recognizable, but that's cool. Yeah, Gordon. Me too, Gordon. I likewise like that piano. But yeah, cool. Okay. Well, listen. We will take a listen to maybe some more of those on the back end of the stream. If you guys are, you know, maybe you've launched Reason, you're going to export something, we'll take a listen to them. I wanted to kind of get to some other stuff. I wanted to show you something before we start playing with players. I mean, the name of the stream is Playing with Players. I mean, I guess we got to get to that, right? I kind of feel like we're having fun doing this and I could just keep doing this, but we'll do some player stuff as well. But before I do that, I was going to show you, I mentioned something on last week's stream that I was experimenting with some cool little music tech thing that I thought maybe I would show you guys. And so I am going to show you guys. And this may or may not apply directly to you as a producer, but I actually I'm wondering if we're all going to start using this more and more as our world becomes, I mean, as third and fourth waves go on, people keep going into these more lockdown states and stuff. We're in this world where it's harder to get together and play music with people like we used to, especially in the States. Europe's having problems again too. The sort of COVID reality that we've been living in has sort of put certain restrictions on people. And one of the biggest ones for me in the acoustic music that I play with people is that you can't, it's very hard to make acoustic music without being with someone and playing with someone. And the solution that has sort of come up in the jamming community, and it's probably true in other jamming communities, maybe jazz or others, is that people are getting on Zoom calls and they will all sort of take turns muting their microphones. One person will play a song, and then you, sitting in your little Zoom window with a muted microphone, will play along with them. They can't hear you. You can hear them, and you can hear you. No one else can hear you, and they can't hear you. And so it's this weird, like, it's better than nothing, but it's hardly better than nothing. It's a very disconnected feeling when you're used to playing with people and making music in a room together and feeding off each other. It's a very disconnected feeling. And so a lot of people have been trying to figure out technology that could help people play simultaneously over the internet. And there's a lot of problems related to that is basically latency and the sum total of latency. You've got, all these different things that introduce delays into the process. When I'm talking to you, right now, what I'm saying right now is reaching you 40 seconds after I said it because of latency, the way that YouTube takes my feed and encodes it, makes it the right quality, sends it out to you guys. That's latency in its worst form. Well, but on a Zoom call, we've all had that, where you're cross-talking someone because you're just a little bit out of sync because of the delay of the Zoom call. That makes playing music together nigh on impossible. And there's some stuff out there where, like, Jacob Collier is kind of trying to teach himself to anticipate the beat and sing with people he's basically spending his entire time singing off beat so that it lands on the listener on beat. He's a wizard, but that's also not exactly a musically fulfilling thing to kind of just be constantly off the beat in a weird way too. So anyway, there is this experimental project out of Stanford University, and it's called Jack Trip. And what they're doing is they're sort of piggybacking off of this program called Jack that sort of captures internal audio. You can capture it's like there's Soundflower has been around, Loopback is one. There's these things that sort of capture your internal audio of your computer. Jack is a very sort of low latency version of that, and probably open source. That's probably why the educational world has kind of grabbed onto it. And these guys at the Jack Trip project at Stanford, what they've done is they've built this little server that removes all possible points of latency that they can. So there's some latency you can't avoid. The latency of my microphone getting digitized into a sound card, the latency that does exist within that Jack program to capture the internal audio, and then you're going to, you got to send it down an Ethernet cable to your router, and then your router sends it to your whatever, node exists where all your neighborhood plugs into their internet, and that goes to, there's and then the internet's a series of nodes as well. So each one of those stages introduces a little bit of latency. You can't get rid of that, but if you can minimize every other piece of latency, you can get the time delay down to where you can actually meaningfully play music with people. So I've been experimenting with this, and it works. It's great. I was so skeptical of this, and I started experimenting with a friend of mine who actually lives in New Orleans. And now I'm gonna play you an example of what we did, but it's interesting because normally the Jack Trip guys would say that you should be within a closer radius, because the big thing I can't get away from with the latency is the time it takes for my signal to travel down a wire to the recipient. And that travels at near the speed of light, plus a couple other little delay points. But it's near the speed of light, so that you can't get faster than that. Physics tells us that. And so the further away you are, that will just be an immovable latency. So I got together with Josh. We tried it out. Josh is 2,000 miles away from me, and we thought, well, this probably won't work, but it actually kind of does, even in that way. I'd love to try it with someone even closer. But I wanted to show you guys this because, because I think it's kind of neat. But I thought about it, and I thought, this is probably where we're all going to be headed as we need to collaborate. And if you think that maybe it doesn't actually relate to you, think of doing a vocal production with an artist where you can actually be live with them and coaching them through a vocal, but they're not in the same room with you. They're within, say, I think Jack Trip says 300 miles or so would be ideal. So check this out. This is just a demo of Josh and I playing music simultaneously across the internet, where I can hear him and he can hear me, and we can play, in relative sync. There's a couple of tricks to kind of getting that happening. You'll see when we talk about it. So check this out. This is just a little demo. I thought it'd be worth sharing. And if there's interest in understanding how to set this stuff up, we could do maybe not a live stream, but I could maybe show people kind of how to get this going, because it's not terribly difficult once you actually understand it. But check this out. This is like mind-blowing to me. Okay, so now by this point on the live stream, I've probably queued up a live video. So now this is past tense me. You were just watching live me, and now you're watching past tense me. I'm here with Josh. This is actually Monday night, the night before our live stream, and Josh over there is coming to us from. Where are you from? Where are you coming from, Josh?
I'm in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Which is 2,000 miles away from me. Is that correct?
Ish.
2,000 and change. Now, technically, this is farther than the Jack Trip guys would say is feasible, and that's probably true. I mean, Josh and I, it's still, I guess, it's safe to say it's still a learning process we're going through here.
I think we're in the curve. Yeah,
we are in the curve. What would you, if you were to sum up kind of the lessons we're learning so far with this great a distance? How have we been making this work?
Well, we learned that playing slow tempos is more forgiving.
Right.
It can resemble real life interaction a lot greater than if we're trying to synchronize quicker, faster tempos.
Right.
And we also learned one subtlety is that depending on who is the host, and this is the technical jargon, I don't know exactly how to put it, but with Ryan hosting, I have to sort of lead a song and have him play and sing to me in order for it to not have just enough of a tempo differentiation differential to drag. Yeah,
so Jack Trip works off of it's a peer-to-peer, but it's still, there is a client server relationship to some degree, where the way we have it set up right now is I've started the Jack Trip server, and you're connecting in as a client to me as a one peer to one peer connection. But that direction, it looks like we're learning that direction. It plays a pretty important role in terms of who kind of is the driver of the tempo of the song.
Because I'm further away.
Yeah, you're right. Because you're further away, right? So if you were within, I think 300 miles, Jack Trip sort of says it's, and that may be true. I don't know. I have no friends within 300 miles.
Nor do I.
But yeah, but the crazy thing is this actually does, and I'll talk to you guys streaming at home there. It actually does. Oh, there's a train.
That's in New Orleans, not in San Francisco.
That is the isn't there an Arlo Guthrie song about the train they call the city of New Orleans?
Actually, he did not write that song, but yes, he made that song famous.
That's the train they call the city of New Orleans, right there. Wow. Okay, there's a famous train. But anyway, yeah, no. The crazy thing is that we actually are able to play together at the same time, and so hopefully we're going to demonstrate that to you. Now, whether we play well, that has nothing to do with the technology. That's entirely our fault. But yeah, let's give this a shot, Josh, and
cool.
And show people this is breaking new ground on internet audio. This is totally the same take. We haven't cut this at all, just so you know. This is a completely authentic, seamless take. What chord was that? Cool.
You want to get your note? Okay.
It's crazy. We're 2,000
It's
miles
crazy
away.
that we could even do that.
It's crazy we can even do that, exactly. Without it, like, noise canceling kicking in and stuff like that, too,
Totally. All right.
All right, take one. Here we go.
Take one. First take. Let's see how we do on this one.
First take. Let's see how this goes on the first take here.
I hope it goes well. I've got a good feeling about this first take.
This first take.
Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't really give it one. Wait, I think I'm starting to get it. A couple more takes.
All right. Should we go for a take? Should we try a first take?
Whew. I don't get the giggles that much anymore. It's kind of a nice feeling. Did you know that I was gone? You slept alone beside me here for too long. So I got up the nerve, packed the car at 3 a.m. I'm not what you deserve, Angela.
All right, now we're back. This is present tense Ryan. That was past tense Ryan. Now this is present tense Ryan. I'm probably breaking your brain by switching back and forth here. But yeah, like that I honestly blows my mind that Josh and I were able to do that. And in one take too. I mean, amazing, right? We were such clutch players that we could pull that off in our first take. Our 20th first take, we nailed it. But yeah, it's a really, so anyway, this is just mostly a sharing because I think this is cool and I think people should maybe start getting into this because there are uses for this that aren't just playing slow, things together like that. But the fact that we're able to do that really is pretty mind-blowing. And there's with distance, if you shorten the distance, then our tempo restriction, we're left playing kind of slower songs because if we tried to do a really fast tune, that tempo would start to become a problem. The latency would become a problem. But anyway, it's the future. I mean, hopefully the real future is we're all going to get together and play in person together again. But until then, it's the near future, the near-term future. Yay, boo, but yay. So anyway, okay, cool. Should we get to playing with some players? Because really that's what I titled this stream, and I guess we should do that. So let's actually kind of do that. Here is the thing that I thought of when I was going to do this stream was let's play around with players because I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure. And you guys let me know in the comments, what is your relationship with players? When players came out, at first they were a little bit, I'll call them controversial for some. So, I mean, it's the internet. So on the internet, everything is a mixed bag of positive and negative. So you're never going to get past that. It's like, but there was a group of people when we first introduced the concept of players that sort of saw them at face value. They saw them as face value with a bias to them. They saw them as sort of cheats, where we had things like scales and chords, which will take note input and it will move it to the nearest correct note within a scale, or you play one note and it will generate a chord. And they said, what? Why do I don't want that. I want to learn the right notes of the scale and play the right notes of the scale. I don't want to play the wrong notes and have the right notes come out. Now I'm not learning anything. Now I'm just, it's like when I play, Mortal Kombat and I'm just like mashing the buttons. 90s reference, number 2, bing! Although I think that's still current. Someone who's a gamer can let me know that maybe I'm allowed to say Mortal Kombat. Though I think if I did this, I think I'm talking about the arcade version. I think I'm back in the 90s. But anyway, my point is that they sort of thought they didn't want to just mash the keyboard and have it corrected. They wanted to sort of the struggle, I guess. They wanted to put in the work and learn the theory to make things work. And so they sort of dismissed scales and chords as a player, kind of offhand. And then sort of there was, people who kind of look at the devices in these simple ways. Beat map, it might be another one where it's like, well, it's generating the drums for me. I got to learn how to program those drums. And so that was a subset of people. But then there were other people that sort of got them right away, which is that players are modular generative music makers. And so let me know if you guys have what you've been doing with players and how you've been getting on with players. But one of the things I see, because I interact with a lot of people's music and song files and kind of see how they're using them, one of the things that often happens is people think of players, they think of players as a one-off. So it's like, I have an instrument, now maybe I'll put a player above it, and maybe I'll put an effect below it. And that's a totally valid, simple construction. In fact, this is great. That's a great way. This is someone at Reason Studios. I think it was Maya at Reason Studios. She recently coined the term outfits from that. You're building a little outfit. You've got a player, an instrument, and an effect. It's a great term. It's a great concept, and they're really effective. That's great to do those. But that doesn't mean that's all players can do. Players are actually stackable and modifiable, and you can think of players as modular building blocks in the same way that you might think of effects. You can put a reverb on a synth and that's your effect, but you can also put a delay and then you can add the reverb after so that you're reverbing the delay. And then you could maybe put a chorus that you're chorusing the reverb to delay. You can stack effects in a chain and think of them more modularly. And players are the same way, and things can get kind of wacky and wild. And players can, I'll take this. Thank you, Noram. But players can not only do that, but a lot of players actually don't just take incoming note data and convert it. They generate notes. And so anyway, what happened was, I might have been on the live stream last week or the week before. I sort of had this moment where I thought, it'd be fun maybe to just experiment with taking the sequencer out of the equation, taking the keyboard playing and all those sort of things, take those out of the equation and just think more in the way that people do with their Eurorack modules, where they sort of look at what things generate tones and what things can modulate the way those tones are generated, and what can I then plug those into, and then how can I affect that, and that will be my sound. And you just create these sort of things that make sound on their own, and they're always different than what you would think of if you took those players out of the equation and just took the synths and the effects and played something and tried to figure. You would never come up with what you come up with using a player approach. So I thought we would mess about with that. That's kind of my thinking today. And maybe we'll just build a sound or two, or sort of talk through some of the ways that you may not have thought of using players that could be worth experimenting with. So, yes, this is true. I think all of Reason in modular terms now. That is true. Reason is a very modular environment. So, yeah. Let's just see. Ian's liking the 2 new maps and beat map. Cool. Yeah. I hope other people are. And if you haven't yet upgraded, if you have Reason 11, it's a free upgrade. Just you're getting the notification, click it, and you're going to get an updated beat map that's got a couple new features and a couple new maps in it that are nice additions. So definitely do that. Okay, let's jump over to Reason and let's figure out. I'm going to move me down. Where can I move me? I'll move me down here until it is no good. Okay. Let's go ahead. Actually, you know what? I take that back. No, yeah, I will do that. Okay. Okay, so now I guess I need to get started. I'm going to start with an instrument. And I will. I mean, there's no wrong answer here. So I'm going to start with good old Subtractor. You guys know we've been talking about this at Reason Studios. We're coming up on the 20th anniversary of Reason's release. So Subtractor is about to hit 20 years old. Next year it can go into a bar in the US and drink. Right now it still has to use its fake ID. But Subtractor is one of my favorite synths for its simplicity. And so I am such a fan of like doing almost nothing with it and then having other things create the sound. Maybe that's a weird way to think of it, but you can think of every one of these synths. You can do a ton inside the synth, or you can do almost nothing with the synth and do everything externally from the synth. And so maybe that's why I was drawn to it now. I'm going to go to a square wave. Is my keyboard on? I'm such a sucker for the old square wave. It's so simple, and you can do things. I mean, I won't, I'm going to jump. I'm breaking my rule already by using a keyboard, but when you do things with, like playing with delays and stuff, I will always love things you can come up with when you're doing that. But let's get rid of that for a second. Okay, now in the player world, I need something that's going to generate notes for me. I've got a couple of options that I could go with. So there's the obvious ones. Quad note generator. If I just, I'll change this to mono. So quad note generator will just spit out notes constantly in a totally random fashion. It would be a valid choice for us. But we can do some other stuff. Let's see what other things generate notes. Here, this is one that maybe you haven't. There's a thing with certain players that you may not have followed. Like drum sequencer, don't let its name fool you. Drum sequencer is a note sequencer. So we could actually use drum sequencer to make some notes. I'm going to attempt to do this on the fly and maybe do it badly. But first of all, let's set up some notes. I'm going to go a little higher. Sure, D3. Let's go A3. I'll make this D4. I'm somewhat spitballing just off fifths and stuff. And F sharp. Some form of F sharp. And so we could, when we assign these notes, it's not going to send out. I mean, this is an arbitrary label. Whatever. It doesn't need to say hi-hat, closed hi-hat, snare, kick. That makes sense if you're doing drum programming. But if you're doing what we're doing, where we're sort of hijacking drum sequencer to play notes, we can just worry about what notes we've programmed over on this side, on the column here, and I guess go about making some stuff. This is treating this sort of like sort of like a polyphonic step sequencer. Who knows? Let's just hit play for a second. I'm going to change my... No, is the F sharp? No, my A. Don't know if I love my A. There you go. So we can, and then, because we're in steps, drum sequencer, we can do things that are part of drum sequencer. Like, we could do some repeats. Here, let's do repeats on maybe this note. Wait, this note. There we go. Let's do repeats on this note too. Triplets maybe? Okay. yeah, let's keep that going. Now we can let's start. Like I was saying, I want to do everything external to my instrument, so I'm going to just kind of work on both ends of my sound here by adding a little bit of reverb to it, just to kind of make it a little less. And let's get in a little bit to the stackable nature of players here by, well, let's see. What can we stack, fellas? Okay, well here's some obvious stuff. Node echo. I'm going to reset node echo right away because the default patch is it's a weird glissando. So yeah, Geo, like the glitches. Oh wait, you know what I should do? Hang on a second. This gives me an opportunity to. Where are the? I can't get it up there. Okay, wait, never mind. I was trying to get comments on. Can I get? Are comments not showing? Why? Oh, there, because they're hidden. Wait. Okay, wait. We're gonna move you guys over here. There we go. Now, hey, there now shows up. Okay, cool. Now we can bring your comments on as needed. Okay, cool. So yeah, those the glitches are that's kind of a neat function of drum sequencer that just sort of comes, right away baked in. There's other stuff we can do on drum sequencer too that is baked in, like the probability selector. So like let's add another note. Let's make like a high. How high do we want to go? I don't know. Maybe C4, D4. It'd be like an octave above what everything else is doing. And let's put in, well, let's just put in one note. And if we put in the pattern, oh, that's not higher. C5, is that where I want to go to? All the way up there? Yeah. Now, the thing about that note that kind of pokes out is like, it's maybe not super cool to have it happen every single time. So we actually can use what is drum sequencer's probability setting. And if I actually dial down the probability, then I'm going to make it so that note doesn't happen all the time. I'll go to 35%. And that will, oh wait, what's this? I did not know you could drag the note up and down like that. Ian, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Let me know what note we dragged up and down. But anyway, I know what you're talking about. You're saying you didn't know that you could redefine what notes are in this column. Yes, you can. You can and you should, Ian. Yeah, that is your week's experiment if you want to dig into drum sequencer. So I've set this note here to have a probability of 35%, meaning that roughly 1/3 of the time we're going to get that top note, which means that it's going to sound, but not often, and it'll just kind of pepper in, and it'll be a little less kind of fatiguing for the ear. So there it sounded. There it did not. There it sounded. And we can play around with sort of, maybe we want to actually be even less common. And we could do other things, like I don't know. Make it a super glitch. Now we gotta wait for it to happen. Now it's never gonna happen. I gotta kick up the probability. There it is. Okay, so I actually don't like that many glitches. So let's go back to that. We'll keep our probability around 24%. Sure. Okay. Now let's go back to our modularity thing here. So we've got this node echo here, and node echo, as you may or may not know what node echo does. Node echo is like a delay, except that it's not delaying the audio signal. It's actually delaying the actual note. And because we're delaying the actual note, we can then modulate elements of the note, like the pitch, the velocity, the pitch and the velocity. And from that, if I go back to the default patch that I switched away from, you'll hear that it, here, I'll play a note on my keyboard just so you hear. So I'm playing a single note. And you see note echo is, you'll see those echoes moving through as I do. The pitch is rising. Every note is rising 5 semitones. That's what's set in the default patch. And it's going to repeat. There's the first note I play, and then there's 4 repeats after this. So we're getting 5 total notes that move up 5 semitones from each other. And it creates that sort of glissando effect. But let's get rid of that, and let's instead play with more like either bigger pitch jumps, or I tend to work, when I work with note echo, I either work in like big common intervals, fourths, fifths, which would be 5 semitones, 7 semitones, or octaves, which is 12 semitones. So maybe we'll start with 12 semitones, and let's just repeat just one time. And we're going to set we'll keep it at the default reset value of 3/16. And we're going to now for every note that comes out of drum sequencer, note echo is going to delay and repeat that note, but an octave higher, a dotted eighth note later, which creates sort of a skipping effect. It's that da, 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 wait, da, 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 da. That's the sort of dotted eighth feel, or the 3/16 feel. So, here Cody says, I've been stacking note echo with scales and chords. Yeah, I mean, we'll probably get into that, because there's a thing I do with scales and chords often when I'm messing around with players. That's kind of nice corrective measure. We'll get to that. Let's take a look at what we're doing with scales and chords here. So now you can hear it's kind of taken our sound and created actually a higher. It's playing off the rhythm, but it's sort of a delayed rhythm, and it's an octave higher, and it's shifted the tonal timbre of our sound all the way up to a higher sound. We could go an octave lower and have the opposite effect. It would sound like this. Or we could go, like I said, we could go to one of these, like a fifth down. Now, some of those work, but you can already hear, like, some of those don't work. They're not quite, like, they kind of are now moving outside of the scale, and it can become maybe not so cool. So the solution that I use for this kind of stuff, when I want to get into this sort of experimentation and I want the notes to not kind of move outside of the perceived scale. I mean, I basically have effectively just a D chord that I'm kind of moving through there a little bit, or D7, I guess. I've got a C in there too. But what I tend to do then is I'll put another player. I'll put a scales and chords on, and I use the scales and chords here as a note quantizer. And you remember what I said was the people who said, like, oh, I don't want it correcting the wrong notes for me. I want to learn how to play the right notes. But when you get into these sort of things, when you're doing these modular setups, you might not have control over playing the right note if you're doing something like an experimental note echo that's going to move the pitch 7 semitones down, and then you've got your pattern. You can't play the right note. You need something to kind of quantize you back into a scale and keep things groovy. So I would put a scales and chords on here, and I would often just turn off chords mode. And now I'm just going to be quantizing notes to a scale. And I guess we have to figure out a scale. I think I said I'm in D. I don't know if I'm actually in D. People smarter than me, D, F sharp, and C. What would be a nice scale to quantize this to? You can let me know in the comments section. Otherwise, I'll just mess about. Let's see what we come up with. So now what's going to happen is my pattern is the notes are being generated from drum sequencer. Those notes are then getting echoed and transposed by note echo. And then those now sometimes incorrect notes, maybe to the ear, are going to get pulled into a scale and hopefully sound a little more cohesive altogether. Hopefully. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Now I could do another thing here. This is sort of a repeat a little bit of the note echo idea, where I've got note echo doing a why do I trip over that? 7 semitone transposition on the repetition. I could use the chords function of scales and chords. If I turn that on, now if I turn it on and leave it at its default, it's just going to start playing a ton of chords. Welcome to Not Cool City. We have arrived. So that's not exactly how we want to do this. But if we instead, we can turn on chords mode, but if we move notes to just one, Stefan's asked me to turn up the reason volume. Yeah, I'll do that, Stefan. You guys let me know if I start clipping. I'll keep my eye on the... Oh yeah, I am quiet. Okay, I'll just keep my eye. We'll ride that fader and hopefully things are okay. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so I've got scales and chords here, and I'm gonna turn the notes down to 1. So there's only gonna be 1 note in the chord. And if you're playing a chord and you only have 1 note, that's something of a thought experiment. Why would you do that? Because if I play it now, it's gonna sound like it first did. Right? But with scales and chords, I can also turn on octave up. And when I turn on octave up on a 1-note chord, because I'm in chords mode, suddenly it will play 2 notes. It is thinking of it like a chord. So now I'm going to instantly get the same note that is happening echoed. I shouldn't say note echoed. I'm going to get the same note simultaneously in 2 different octaves like this. Now, I should say that, we could, I could come back to my Thor. I could create a square wave and change the octave to 5. And you hear now we're not doing it with turn off chords mode. We're getting the same effect. Right? So maybe you'd go like, well, why don't you just do it inside the synth? And the answer is that, well, because I could maybe do something else with this. What if I wanted to, here, I'll make this one the same octave, but a triangle wave. We'll just kind of round out our sound a little bit with a little bit of a triangle wave mixed in there. In fact, I'll kick the mix up a little triangle heavy. Okay, and then now I've used up that oscillator. Now how do I get that octave effect? Well, that's how we do it with players. We do it externally. So I can turn the octave up here on chords mode, single note, and we'll get. Oh no, Jeff, an hour late. Oh, I know the clocks. I don't control the clocks in the world. So sorry about that, Jeff. Don't worry. The good news is these streams are archived, so you can jump back and see what you missed. And maybe you didn't miss much, but hopefully people would think differently. But yeah, don't worry. We haven't been going at this too long, Jeff. So I haven't missed too much here. Okay, so now we've got we've got some music happening. One thing I was thinking about as I'm listening to this is that this little run that I'm doing here. It's nice and all, but I'm gonna try something. I really, I should have tested this beforehand to make sure what I'm about to hopefully do is going to work, or that I can figure out how to do it. But I'm going to try and figure it out live on the air, because remember, what was that thing I was saying in the beginning about sort of, showing the process, warts and all, and sort of thinking in not perfectly presentable format? I'm going to live by that right now. Here's what I'd like to do. You've got a pattern selector on Drum Sequencer. And again, this is sort of, trying to think of Drum Sequencer as a note sequencer and not a drum sequencer. My second pattern, or my 8th pattern really, if I wanted to go all 8, but I've got a second pattern. I could go ahead and program something else. And I might want to do that because I'm listening to my little glitchy thing, and it's cool, but it'd be nice if it were maybe twice as long. So listen. that pattern, it's not terrible, but it is doing the same thing over and over again, with the exception of our probability one, which is that actually does create a little bit of variation for the ear. If that were gone, it would feel even more repetitive. But yes, Backlub, you are hearing it in mono. I'm gonna have to sort that out. We're broadcasting in mono currently. I'm gonna have to figure out why that is. But don't worry, we're not gonna do anything that is like, you're not gonna be missing out on a stereo experience today. So, but so it'd be nice. So I could program a second pattern. So let's go ahead and do that. And we can pretty much, I mean, it's really arbitrary. I'm just going to drop some of these in and see what we come up with. Let's try that. I mean, that's cool. I'll put in a note there and we'll do a little glitch. We keep the glitch going so it's not only happening in half the riff. Okay, and let's maybe put this in and put in some probability on these two. And again, I tend to go for, if I'm going to do a probability-based thing, I tend to go for relatively low probability so that it's, I don't know, I sort of gravitate towards, when I'm thinking probability-based, what I'm actually thinking is I almost never want it to happen, but just enough that it's kind of there. So let's take a listen to this. Okay, now I'm going to switch back and forth manually right now just to hear how the two things would sound together. So the two patterns would go kind of like this. So it's moving the pattern back and forth in a way that sort of just creates basically a twice as long pattern, which is not a bad thing. Wait, a tip coming in hot. Let's take a look at this. Yuhani says it's quite easy to copy pattern and then hit Alt. Magic can happen. Wait a second. I think he's right, but I got to remember how to do this. There is a copy. He's talking about. Oh, wait, where is that? It's here. Yes. Okay, so yes, he's saying I could hit copy, then I could go to another pattern and I guess paste. Wait, how do I do this? Wait. Oh, I can't remember. Oh, I got to use the buttons. Oh, okay, it's coming back to me. I go to the copy. Sorry, it's been a while since I made the tutorial on this. This is not a function that I use. So yeah, you hit copy, I think on the whole pattern like that. And then I got to go to this one. Now I'm going to hit copy, theoretically. Then I'm going to come here and I'm going to hit paste. Ah, yes. And then I can hit alter, and I hit the alter button. Hey, Yuhani is correct. Oh, there you go. Now Stefan's guiding me because he's behind on the stream. I got it, Stefan. Don't worry. I figured it out. It just took me a hot second. So let's take a listen to what Yuhani is saying. Magic can happen, by altering what you've already got. Let's take a listen. I'm gonna alter it again. Cool. Okay. Yeah. And in fact, that was so simple. And thank you, Yuhani, for that suggestion. Let's do that for pattern 2. We'll make an alt into pattern 4. So I'm going to go copy paste. I'm going to copy, click the C to copy pattern 2, go to pattern 4, click the paste, and then I'm going to go to the alter function and let's cycle it and hear that. Out of curiosity, I'm gonna move the release up on the amp on this synth just a little bit. Maybe it sounds nice with a little ring out. Sure. Okay. Now, so here's the thing though. In my quest that I gave myself, hey, July just joined. Hi, July. Kickback Coutures in the audience. In my quest to try and do things without the sequencer, that's really I could just now automate in the sequencer pattern 1, pattern 2, pattern 3, pattern 4. But in my quest to do things without the sequencer, just for my own to kind of expand the way I might think about things, I was trying to think of while we were live. This is why I should have prepared for this. But while we were live, I thought, it'd be nice if there'd be a way that we could automate the switching of these patterns in the preset itself, or in the outfit itself, right? So here's my concept, and let me see if I'm right. I'm going to, I guess maybe this gets into a conceptual thing I should talk about here. How can we modify this parameter if I flip around here and you look at drum sequencer, the CV cables that we have on players are usually relatively limited, if at all. You can look, Node, echo, scales, and chords have no jacks on the back for CV input-output modulation. Drum sequencer has gate outputs, so you could use drum sequencer and use the gate CV cables to go to the gate in of a drum machine and trigger drums that perhaps drum sequencer isn't directly sitting above. It's an external. But you don't have any other inputs there, so there's no way that I directly can modify this pattern selector. But here's what I'm hoping. Prepare to watch me maybe crash and burn. I'm hoping that if I select all of these devices and I drop these into a combinator, I'm going to choose combine, and now nothing has changed. The only thing that's changed is that all these devices are now wrapped up inside of a combinator. If I hit play, everything will do exactly the same thing. So why did I do that? That's a great question, straw man that I just invented. The reason I did that is because, and this is like almost maybe the biggest thing you could take from this live stream, is that there are parameters. If you didn't know this, there are parameters that are available to us via the combinator that aren't available to us in other ways. There's times you can click on, you can right click on a device and choose edit automation, but then there's other times where something may not be. I don't know a good example of something that's not automatable in front of me here. Maybe all this stuff is automatable, but on certain things, particularly the bigger devices that have a lot of, like Kong. Again, I don't know what wouldn't be automatable, but let me see if we can find one. Usually the effects. Like if I wanted to automate the decay, darn it, it's there. That's there. Take my word for it. There are certain things that don't show up as automatable. But they are available to us in the combinator. And the same thing is true with players that don't have direct CV inputs. We can get to them. We can CV modulate them using the combinator. So let's do that. Let's hope it works. What a wind up for a thing I don't know is going to work. This could be, enjoy. Here's what I'm going to do. I need to create something that's going to generate a CV signal. That didn't drop in where I wanted. I'm going to move that up. I'm putting it above the player, but it's not actually related. It's not connected to anything. You can see there's no CV jacks in there. And that means it's not actually part of my little sound, my player, my effect, and my instrument. It's not part of that chain. It's just actually sitting above it. But here's what we're going to do. I am going to click, I'll do it on the front of the combinator. I'm going to click Show Programmer. We're going to open up the programmer, and we are going to run a CV cable into the programmer's CV1 input. So again, so far, nothing is happening relative to our sound. This is all just a connection between Pulsar and the combinator. And so all I'm doing right now is I'm sending a signal. It's set to a sine wave it's set to tempo sync, so it's pulsing at some 3/8. Okay, so dotted eighths again. It's pulsing at this little sine wave pattern that it's doing, and it's sending that signal into the combinator, and nothing different is happening yet. And the reason nothing different is happening is because we haven't actually programmed the combinator to do anything with that signal. But if we come over here and we click, I'm going to do, see if I can, here, let's do this. It'll be a little clunky for me going back and forth like this. Remind me, guys, if I forget to zoom out that I'm no longer showing you my full screen. But here, if I do this, now you'll see everything I'm hopefully going to be able to show. Again, I hope it works. Oh no. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to click on my drum sequencer, which I think is this thing called default. Or no, it's this thing called default. And let me just see. Yeah, okay. So I clicked on the targets here to kind of make sure they were the things related to drum sequencer. So I click on drum sequencer, and I'm going to come down here below all of these source assignments, and I'm going to make a new one. And I'm going to choose CV input 1, which is where I plugged my cable into. I went CV out of pulsar into CV input 1 on the combinator. So I choose CV input 1 here, and I'm going to go pattern select. And already you can see weird things happening, but let's hope this all works out okay. I'm going to change my settings to go from pattern 1 to pattern 4. And now if you'll notice, as my little sine wave thing is moving around, you can see my pattern selection is happening. Thank God. Oh, push button says name your devices. Okay, fine. Here, I'll call it note sequencer. There. So are you happy? Push button there. Now I call it note sequencer, and now it shows up in my combinator as note sequencer, which takes the guesswork out of what I just did there. But so now we've correctly got our CV signal automatically switching our pattern, and we can now go about and choose the things like the speed of our switching and the type of switching that we do. So for example, I want to go here. I'm going to set my speed to 4/4, which is 1 bar. So every bar it's going to switch. You can see it happening there. Every bar it's going to switch up and down. Now, because it's a sine wave and because the level is set to midway, it's actually only oscillating between 2 and 3. If I max this out, it's going to go, I think, there you go, back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm looking, if I'm correct there, I actually think it's 4, 4. Oh yeah, it's moving every beat. So I would actually want this to go to 16/4. And now I think theoretically it's going to move roughly every bar, except on a sine wave. You got a rounded corner of the sine wave, so it takes a little time to come around the edge. If I change this to triangle, I think it's going to just every bar now ping pong one way or another. I think that looks vaguely like that's happening one bar. Johanny, you need to crank up the level of the LFO so all patterns get played. Yes, that is what I was talking about there, Johanny. We're a little off on our delay, the stream latency, but yes, hopefully by now you've gone, oh, good, he did that. So we could do things like instead of having it cycle through them like that, we could go to, here we go, random wave. And this one will just sort of randomly pick. Let's actually listen to the results of some of these. So I'll go first to the triangle and let's play that one and just hear it pattern switching for us. So that's one option. That's cool. And you hear, like, we instantly now have this variation, which is twice as much variation as even I was thinking. I was just going to make 2 patterns. But Johanny chimes in. He reminds me of the wonderful alt function and the copy paste function in the drum sequencers patterns. And suddenly we have 4 patterns that we can move through. And look, they're just switching away there. Oh wait, have I done the thing where I forgot to pull out? Yeah, I did. Look at that. See, I didn't zoom out. They are just going to just click away and do their thing. And that's great. So, and it's going to have, right now it's happening in a cycled way. Let's see what happens if we move that to that random one and see what we get. So yeah, and correct. Rev is saying that a sawtooth would give a linear progression. That's correct. Let's take a look at the sawtooth. That should just see us moving 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, cycling through them that way. So I mean, almost any of them will work. For my money, the random one is cool. I mean, for this type of sound, a random generation thing sort of works. You want it to just kind of play with your ear, but not, it doesn't, we actually don't need, we're not trying to construct a riff. We're kind of constructing an experimental sort of thing. So now, while we're on the subject of messing with players, I'm sort of thinking what more we can do on the top end. I think of, when I'm doing these sort of things, I'm thinking, what can I mess with on the top end, meaning players? What can I then mess with and sculpt on the bottom end, meaning effects? And the thing in the middle can almost be arbitrary. I mean, that's why I sort of picked the subtractor running a very basic, right now it's a triangle and a square wave sound. We can do so much with the things on both ends that we don't need to get hung up on necessarily the sound design. There's nothing wrong with sound design if you want to dig in and do really cool synth sounds themselves. But you can also think of sound design not just as what you're doing with oscillators and wave shapers, but what you're doing on both sides of that. So, sound dispenser. How long is the replay going to be available? Forever. It's never going away. It'll be on our channel forever. So don't worry. You haven't missed it. You're going to watch it in like a sort of Pulp Fiction nonlinear order. Oh, Pulp Fiction, third 90s reference, 11:22. So 1 hour and 22 minutes in, we got number 3. All right. I think we've hit our quota. But anyway, okay. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So I was thinking another thing I could do to sort of stack players would be here. Let's drum sequence. No, not drum sequencer. Dual arpeggio. Here, let me go down. Should I do it this way or here? I'll do it here. Now the thing about dual arpeggio is on a sound like this, it may not be the obvious thing to grab because we're doing short transient notes. We're not actually holding notes. And in fact, I think if I play, we might hear almost nothing. No, we hear things. But it's changed things. It's modified our notes, but it hasn't, it's not really doing its own arpeggio because the notes aren't ever really long enough to do that. So let's, that's not actually what I was after here. What I'm after dual arpeggio for is that dual arpeggio has a transpose function. Well, actually, there's another way I could do the transpose. Let me think about that. No, I'll do it with dual arpeggio. Why not? So if I set my dual arpeggio, I'm going to arbitrarily set this a little slower to quarter note just so that it doesn't get in the way. And I'm going to turn the pattern on and make just a pattern of 1. No, not that one. This one. Think. Maybe both, actually. Okay, yeah. So it's still 2 notes, so I still want that. Okay, so I've got my... Oh, you know what, though? Wait. Ooh, interesting. This is getting rid of my glitches. Huh. That's not a bad thing necessarily. Let me think this through for a second. I'm thinking out loud with you guys. We've crossed over to the think out loud stage. I don't, maybe if I take these off and turn off pattern, will I still get my... Yeah, I lose my... Okay, maybe I should do this in a different way. Let me try this with a note echo and reset it. Because note echo can also do transposition on the fly as well. Hopefully. If I set my, tempo sync off, set my step length to 0, my repeats to 1, turn off the original, and now I should have a transposer. If I move this up, we should hear it higher. Yeah, we are getting transposition. Cool. Okay, so let me, now that I was doing that a little bit fast, but hopefully people caught on what happened there. What I did is I'm using another note echo, and I set my step length to 0, so my time is effectively 0. I've turned off tempo sync, so it's not trying to set it to a musical note length. I've set my repeats to just 1 repeat, and then I turned off the original. The original is being handled already. I've turned off the original so that the only thing I'm hearing is actually the repeat, which is instantaneous. So if I'm only hearing the repeat, which is instantaneous, and I modify the pitch knob, I effectively get a live note transposer with that pitch knob. Unless I'm wrong, and tell me I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that is correct what I'm saying. So, and I'm hearing it when I play this riff and I move this up, we're getting a little pitch there. So, so we get some live transposition there. Now, the thing is I can, again, we could treat this as static. But if we treat it as static, all we've really actually done is just transpose our note. And maybe that's not that exciting. But we can, again, if you look on the back here, we have no jacks, no options for note echo, but we do, we can do the same exact thing. Let's use the second LFO of our dual LFO. We'll turn it on. I'll set it to tempo sync. I'll turn my level all the way up from the get-go, and I don't know, I'm not sure yet what I'll do with that stuff, but let's actually go ahead and I'm going to name this just for push button, and we're going to call this transposer. I'm going to go up into my programmer now. Oh wait, almost forgot to run the cable. I'm going to run a CV cable to CV input 2. Allegedly, there it is. And I'm going to click on my transposer, and down here in one of my available slots, I could either do this in an available slot here, or I could actually take what is currently saying rotary 1. I could just move that to CV input 2 up top, and I'm going to choose a destination, and my destination is going to be pitch, and I'm going to set a range. I'm going to only go lower. So we're going to set a maximum range of no transposition and a minimum range of 5 semitones. And what we theoretically would be, oh yeah, there it is. Here, let me zoom in for you. You can already see there's my LFO is already modulating the pitch knob, and it's just moving back and forth. And now we probably are going to need to do something cooler than what's going on there. What's going on there is probably too fast. So, but let's say play, just hear it transposing on the fly. Congratulations, we've made terrible music. So let's see if we can improve that. And the way I think we're going to improve that is by actually adjusting both the rate and the waveform here. Let's go. I mean, maybe it's just a back and forth between two ranges. Let's go 4 semitones and no transposition. So maximum no transposition is going to be the thing as we had it, and then it'll toggle over to, on a square wave is just going to go back and forth. So it'll toggle over to 4 semitones transposed. We'll try it every 2 bars. Okay, that's something. Maybe we'll go a little bit slower so we can kind of. Should we go all the way? No, maybe 16. And let's see what happens if it's just a less often thing. Woody says more reverb will fix it. That's always true, isn't it? So you guys, you're starting to talk about reverbs and pulverizer. Let's actually think about, the bottom side of the sound that we've been making, right? We've got a nice stack of players there that are all working together modularly and being modulated by our pulverizer. So let's think about the bottom side of things. So I threw a reverb on in the beginning just to kind of, make it, without it, it was just a little too dry. So I put a reverb on it. And Woody says, add reverb to it. Reverb can make it sound cool. But it can also be overpowering on its own. Like, too much of that can be kind of lame. But some of it is nice, right? And hopefully you guys are thinking where I'm thinking, which is that let's harness that same concept of modulating things over time to actually, again, we're not using the sequencer, so we got to do this using these tools. So let's actually let's mess with this combinator. We can apply the same thinking that we applied to our players using the combinator. If I drag in a second pulsar dual LFO, I've got more CV inputs on my combinator, so I'm going to drag another LFO to CV input 3, and then I'm going to click on my reverb, and I'm going to assign CV input 3 to the dry wet. There it is. And it's probably already going. Let's scroll down and look. There it goes. And similarly, I'm going to change my waveform like we did up above. I'm going to change it to a random waveform. I'm going to turn up the level. There we go. And I guess I'm going to play around with, what I'm going to do here. I'm going to move this for visual purposes. I'm going to move this pulverizer down where my reverb is. And now we can adjust it and see the knob changing at the same time. So what's going to happen now is we're going to temporarily turn on that reverb, and sometimes it's going to be more dry, and we can play around with the extent to which that happens. We can actually, I should say, before I do this, I don't ever want it to be fully wet. So I'm going to pull that back automatically. And I don't ever want it to be fully dry. So I'm going to bump that up a little bit. Those are arbitrary numbers. I'm just kind of guessing that I don't ever really want it to be way low or way high in the range. And now I can pump my level up because I've already constrained the range that this knob will move, so I can actually have my LFO go its full range. So the crowd wants a pulsar, but do you hear that? I'll put a pulsar on. Do you hear what's happening? You hear that it's what we're getting now is that some of the notes are getting reverbed and some aren't getting reverbed, and so it's actually creating a little bit of a almost a more interesting textural effect than it would if we just found one spot for that reverb to just stay at all times. This question comes in. What do you do when you run out of CV jacks or knobs on your combinator? If you know what you do, you go to your nearest Reason forum and you go to the feature request forum and you start typing furiously, we want more knobs and buttons for our combinator. And then we read those and we go, oh yeah, people seem to want that. That's what you do. And I don't say that to be dismissive. I actually say that because it's productive. We listen to that stuff. People are getting nervous that I haven't saved the file. All right, let's save the file. Let's see here. I'm just going to call it Untitled 5. That'll really freak you out. Now I've saved the file, but it's still called Untitled 5. That's going to give you guys some anxiety. But yes, living reverb. That's sort of the concept, Eric. We're creating this. I'll let it play now without interrupting it. Now I'm gonna actually adjust. Where was I? I was at the top here. I'm gonna adjust my minimum parameter up a little bit because I don't ever want it to go as dry as it's going. So I'll go to 30. Again, arbitrary numbers I'm kind of picking. Okay, now give the people what they want. They want a pulverizer. Where should I stick the pulverizer in the chain? I guess do I stick it after the reverb? So I'm just kind of going to grit up the whole thing. Let's reset. Whoops. Or we could go, if I hold down the shift key after I've drug this into the rack, if I hold down the shift key and move this up, it'll actually recable so that it's now going from pulverizer into the reverb instead of from the reverb into pulverizer. And so now the reverb will stay pristine on the top end, and we can probably be a little more aggressive on our dirt. Stefan says before. Okay. That's where we got it. That's where we got it. Okay. And now let's I don't know, let's to kind of really glitch it up. I'm going to throw will I do that before or after? I'm going to do that one after. Take that, Stefan. I'm going to throw a synchronous on and I'm going to click effect patches. Shall I go to something stuttery kind of things? Beat repeater, classic. Let's take a listen to this one. Too much. What else could we? Repeat builder, that's another good one. Let's take a listen to repeat builder. Oh yeah, okay, wait. This is the one where I gotta be careful where I hit stop or I get that. I'm gonna have that while I talk to you. Hang on. No. There we go. Okay. Beat repeater's fun, but there's a thing I often disable in beat repeater, which is which one? It's this long yellow line that I think is a filter that's opening up, right? Filter, there it is. I'm gonna pull that back, and therefore now the filter won't be evolving over time. It'll just be a static setting. I have to open it up now. Let's add a sidechain. At this point now, I have two things going on. One, I'm just goofing around with effects, and two, that is reaching a point where I actually would love to bring in drums, but I'm not going to do it on the live stream because, you know, we've been here a while. So we're gonna leave this one at that. But hopefully you guys have gotten some ideas here. If I scroll back up here, the way that we have been treating these players to be actual modular building blocks for sort of manipulating notes and using things like scales and chords to our advantage to actually sort of quantize the notes back into a scale so that we are not just creating, you know, atonal noise. We're actually creating sort of musical riffs and stuff. So I think that the same thing might be true as I said last week. If you guys start messing around with, you know, using players to generate notes and using these modular concepts, send us what you do. We'll play them on the next live stream and maybe open up the stream with a few of those. So I know, Norm, once I put that sidechain on, I so wanted to add drums to it, but you know, maybe that's what I'll do with the rest of my day. In fact, if you guys want, I could save this as a combinator. Is that a thing? I could do that. I'll save it as a combinator, and we'll post it. And you guys, if you want to take this and move forward with it, do it. Oh, okay. Well, here we're getting a request for some kind of drums. Okay, fair enough. You had me at drums. Let's add some quick drums, and then but I want to stick around because I wanted to get back to and listen to some other stuff you guys might have submitted since the beginning of the live stream. So if you've submitted stuff that used field recordings, I'm going to go back and look at some of those. But let's take a look here. Let's go to drum sequencer, and I'm going to try and make this quick. So I'm going to use a combinator patch that is, not, I want to go to beat map, not drum sequencer. Derp, 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 derp. Beat map. And combinator style patches. I'm going to go for something. What am I going to do? Oh, I'm at 88. So does that lead me to, I think it'll put me vaguely in hip hop. It doesn't feel like a hip hop beat though. I'm going to go to electronic and just see if something can work there. And well, let's just drag one in. Let's just see what we get. There you go. So we've got a beat map going in there. I could let's change the map, see what happens. All right, guys. So there you go. Now, I'll come back to that. Maybe we'll use that as our outro music. So we'll come back to that in a second here. But let's first, before we wrap things up here today, let's actually dig into and see if other people have submitted stuff. So for anyone tuning in late, what I said at the beginning of the stream was that last week we had Venus Theory on. He talked about how he used his field recorder. He took it with him everywhere, and he recorded the sound of the garbage bin that he threw something away at in the park, and the birds or a car door closing, and he just records everything all the time. And he takes these field recordings and he turns them into samples, and he showed you how he manipulates a pretty basic recording to make a really usable drum sound and build his own kits of these things, or these things he calls grain clouds, where he's sort of using the grain synthesizer to sort of take what is kind of essentially just be like murmuring crowds and turn that into very usable music. So, you guys, I set you guys the task. Some people were feeling inspired watching him do this, and I said, do it. Record something, manipulate it, make some music using your own field recordings, and we'll check them out on the stream. And that's what we did at the beginning of the stream, and that is what we are going to do now. So let's take a look at some of these other ones. I'm going to open up Herman Brooks. Herman, if you're still watching, it's your moment, buddy. This is a tune that he made, and he's titled it Stardust Breaker 75. I would like to believe, Herman, that there are 74 other Stardust Breakers that have come before this one, and this is the 75th Stardust breaker. Let's take a listen to what you've done here. If you're in the chat, let us know what you did do, what's coming from a sort of manipulated field recording.
Crafty.
I mean, that's really cool, by the way. Very chiptune. Cool. Well, these sound great. Oh wait. I think I heard wait. There's a little noise back there. I thought maybe it was coming from the field recording. You guys are manipulating these in cool ways that are obscuring their origin. So it's like, I don't listen to that and go like, oh yeah, there's the Amazon delivery box that he swatted and recorded. Fantastic sounding tune. So great job there. Let's take a look at another one here. Here, I've seen Ian's on watching the stream, so hopefully he's still watching and can tell us about his recording. Ian uploaded one called... oh wait, gotta expand it so I can see what it's called. 1640... Wait, now hang on. You're not giving away your address, are you? Or are you doxing somebody else? There's a street name there. And I'm somewhat hesitant to read out the full name of this one, just in case it's like, I don't know. It's an address. We're going to call it the address song. Let's take a listen to this. This is what Ian did with field recordings. I'm going to pause for a second. This is cool. So Ian chimes in. He says, everything except the CS80 synth is found. So all manipulated stuff. Let's take a listen. That means those drums that just kicked in and probably everything else. But I assume the CS80, you're talking about that sort of soft attack synth. Really great. So, what I love about these, listening to these, and I thank you guys, the ones you're sending in, you really are embracing this thing I talked about up top about, these aren't 4-minute long polished songs. That was a minute long, got through the ideas, and that's a perfect sketch, Ian. What I love about that one is that while I still wouldn't identify it as found sounds, you're sort of embracing some of the lo-fi quality of them to actually make a really kind of neat, gritty thing. When that drum beat kicks in, it sounds like something I wouldn't get in a sample pack, and I like that. I like hearing the uniqueness of those drums, and they're not the most popular sample on Splice right now. Yeah, love that. Okay, let's check out a couple others here, and then we will bid each other adieu. Stanislav Molotov, let's check you out. It is called The Voice of the Roots 2. Stanislav, if you are in the chat, let us know what's happening here in Found Sounds. Maybe it will be obvious, maybe it will not, and either one of those would be Totally, totally great. Here's Stanislav Molotov's The Voice of the Roots. Well, right, well, there you go. There's an obvious one. So he's setting a mood, sounds like a stream. That's kind of cool. Nice bass sound. I hope you guys are listening in headphones, because that's really like, I'm feeling it on the sub. Oh. Okay. Well, I'm going to pause because I need to, Ian was not doxing somebody. The title is 1640 Riverside on that tune because it was 88 BPM, and that is a Back to the Future reference, I believe. I hope I'm making that correct. Would that be 1640 Riverside was the house that Doc Brown lived in? So there you go. Ian, you are redeemed for not trying to put somebody's address out on the internet. This is awesome. Yes, I agree. You know what's cool about this too is imagine this tune if we took out, I'm gonna turn this on. If we took out all of those field recordings, imagine this tune if it had none of those atmospherics. It was just the swirling synths. It'd be pretty, but it's so much prettier with that.
And then under pressure of the church, they banned the addition of these plants that could be your gateway to God. Because the church wanted to be in between you and God.
Some speech that Stanislav has found. You know, it's funny. I always think it's funny when you take speeches and you put them to music like that, they become so much more significant maybe than they once were. The same is true of sort of little moments of dialogue from a movie where you just drop it onto a beat and suddenly it's like takes on this like significance that can be quite cool. So that's almost its own sort of field recording thing for people to go out and find. But cool. Well, guys, these are great. And thanks to those that sent this. Oh, wait, you know what? There's one. Hang on. There's one that I haven't played in the folder, so I'm going to drop this one in here. Let's check that one out before we take off. Tommy ML, New Good Saint Wares, parentheses, Swede. I wonder what he means by that. Are you saying that you're a Swede and therefore we should favor you and make sure we play it? Well, if that's true, it worked, buddy. No, that's not fully true. But okay, let's take a listen to what Tommy's doing. Tommy, if you're in the comments, let us know what you did with the field recordings on this. This has another one of those things that's sort of nice, like those drums have a little lo-fi quality. I'm pointing to where they're sitting in my stereo field, but you're getting it in mono. But those little sort of like ride cymbal-y, tinkly sounds, I'm assuming are some of the found sounds, and they have a nice, just unique quality. Do it, Gabriel. Keep working. Cool. Well, you know what? Maybe should I use this as my outro music? We've got another 1 minute and 46 seconds. We can get it done in that time. I think we're going to call it there. Guys, listen, thank you so much for joining us yet again. I've enjoyed seeing everyone. Thank you for submitting tunes. And hopefully you guys got some ideas of things you can do with players, where you're stacking players and kind of modulating things, and you're using the combinator, unlocking these sort of hidden parameters within the combinator to actually create modulations that you wouldn't have thought of, like the wet dry on a reverb, having that kind of move automatically. Don't always think of a setting as a static setting. Think of a setting as what it can do over time. So thanks for tuning in. We're going to be back with more of these. Next week, we have a huge producer, Phonics Beats, J. Cole among other artists, and we're going to be talking to him. I'm very excited to talk to him. He and I have been chatting on the phone a little bit already. Super nice guy. So tune in for that. You're going to have a great time with that one. And we'll go from there. We got the next few weeks kind of planned out for you guys. And like I said, I think at the end of November, get ready, because I'm going to put you guys on the stream. We're going to do a group call. We're going to all hang out together, see what you've been up to over these last few months since we've all talked, and hang out. Until then, keep making some music. Send it to us. We love hearing what you guys are up to on the stream and off the stream. So do send it to us. And I will see you next week here on the Reason live stream. See you guys. Have a good week.